This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an individual that if you have heard her sing live, had the privilege of hearing her sing karaoke at the Fantasy Football Expo, you'd feel guilty for not having paid a cover charge for the event. She's that good. And her passion for fantasy sports, actually, it rivals her singing skills, which says a lot. You know her from Lightning Round, Fantasy Football, and Fantasy Alarm. It's the unbelievably talented Britt Flinn. Welcome in, my friend.
I don't even know how I'm going to follow that intro. Like, you hyped me up. I'm just going to disappoint everybody from here on out.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Not a chance. No way. Now, this podcast, it's all about celebrating the game of fantasy football and the fantasy football experience. When I have guests on, I want to dive deeper into their passion for fantasy and their passion for life and sports. Obviously, you are known for a passion for what happens in Fayetteville, Arkansas when it comes to sports. Before we get into anything else, let's talk about the University of Arkansas and what you've experienced this week.
Oh my gosh. So the Bobby Petrino coming back as offensive coordinator really made me sick. I'm not going to lie. I don't like that because I was just graduated when he got fired, when that whole motorcycle incident went down. I don't really like him coming back because I think that he is probably the reason that we have sucked for the past 10, 11 years in football. But, you know, it's a move. Maybe he can redeem himself. But last night, the win in basketball over Duke was just completely incredible. Eric Musselman is known for his recruiting and transfer portal prowess. And we were kind of worried, like, are these guys going to gel? Are they not? Last night they gelled. And it was so great. I mean, record attendance at Bud Walton Arena, which was or is still the basketball palace of Mid-America. People were camping out in the parking lot. They actually had to corral and barricade a camping section for the students and people who were camping out to get their places in line. And the crowd showed up. It was great, which is why I'm wearing my Arkansas hat. It's not because I'm just having a bad hair day.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I've seen the clips of storming the court, and what a win. I mean, to defeat Duke, at any time, that's pretty cool, especially for Arkansas. I love it. I love it for you. Love it for all those fans.
It was so great. I mean, we beat Duke in the 94 national championship. And I know you're going to get into it later, but like my love of sports starts with Arkansas athletics. And that was when I was kind of like starting forming memories and things like that. And all of my family, very big Arkansas Razorback fans. And I kind of remember just briefly that moment happening. And we actually beat Duke.
Again, very excited for you.
Well, I appreciate that because I am also very excited.
I bet.
I'm surprised I have a voice left, honestly, because I was screaming at the TV. I was like, yeah, get him in foul trouble. Like in the first 5 minutes, like probably should have blown my voice out, but luckily I didn't.
You got that special voice, so you could power through. So no, it's cool. There's nothing more fun than something like that. Feeling those type of wins definitely it highlights the excitement of sports and what makes sports special. But speaking of sports and your passion for sports, where did that all come from? Where did it all begin?
Man, I can remember from very early on, and I grew up on a farm out in the country. We did not have cable. We did not have satellite. It was all antenna. And everything that we got was from 3 local stations. Luckily, the Dallas Cowboys were always on Fox. Unluckily, it was out of Little Rock, which is about 3 hours away from where we were. So there was always the snow on TV. And I remember thinking when I was watching Cowboys games, why is it snowing in Texas? But it was just the antenna. But yeah, my dad and I really bonded over the Dallas Cowboys. My very first video game was Tony La Russa's baseball. And I loved Darryl Strawberry. He was my favorite player. I would always pick him and play which is crazy and also says something about my personality later on in life. The Dodgers and then the Lakers. My very first bet that I made with somebody was in 5th grade, I think. I bet this kid that the Lakers would beat the Pacers. The Pacers, unfortunately, beat the Lakers. I showed up next day, unwilling to admit defeat on the bet, and I said, "Do you wanna go double or nothing that the Lakers are gonna win the championship?" And then they did. It's just been ingrained in my personality my entire life, and it's kind of annoying to some people. I have been told by my friends, certain friends, that they will not watch football with me because I just yell at the TV too much, but that is how passionate I am about sports.
Competition, I love it. No, I mean, that fuels the fun nature of fantasy football. I think that you gotta have that ability to compete or that drive and excitement to compete, to make it fun, and so you obviously have that. There's no shortage of that in your world for sure. When did you discover fantasy sports?
So I didn't know anything about fantasy sports, and it was kind of a happenstance situation. My husband's cousin had a league, and he was like, "Hey, we had a guy back out at the last minute." And Sellers is like, "Well, Brittany likes football. Like, it's fine. She'll be in it." And I knew nothing about it. He was telling me, like, in the beginning, "Well, you need to take running backs first because running backs are very, like, um, no, they're very scarce." And this was back 10, 11 years ago. And through 2 or 3 rounds, I was like, "Nope, I'm just gonna do my own thing." I actually made it to the finals and the championship. Everybody was so mad. They thought that he drafted my team for me. I still stand on this to this day that the only reason that I didn't win was because Tony Romo was my quarterback, and he got injured in, like, week 15 or 16 that season, and it just completely screwed me for the championship. But I didn't know about waivers, and nobody explained waivers to me. I didn't put in a waiver claim the entire season.
Wow.
My team was just that good, which is also insane. But yeah, after that, and especially, I have a little chip on my shoulder. If somebody tells me that I can't or won't or didn't do something, I'm going to prove to them that yes, I can. And I will do it much better than you even thought. So I just got hooked ever since.
I love it. You gotta have that feistiness. I love it. Now, obviously, that Tony Romo meme, that's my quarterback. That means a little extra special to you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, so working in sports bars too, and in the service industry, people were like, "Oh, she likes football. She can talk football with us." And so one of the most common questions was, "What do you think about Tony Romo?" And I'm so tired of hearing this question over and over and over again because honestly, statistically, Romo was a great quarterback, and he just was injured over and over and over again, and it was pretty unfortunate. But you can tell by his time in the booth, he knows football. He can
Yeah.
read everything, offense and defense. And yeah, it just, we'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about my greatest sports defeat.
Okay. Sounds good. Now, when it comes to fantasy, do you have like a primary home league that you experience or enjoy the most?
Yeah, so again, being a bartender, I'm in a league with a bunch of my husband's friends. My husband's a little bit older than me, so these are all older bartenders who are now not bartenders on the street, but it's called Behind Bars, and it's my biggest money league. We compete for points, we compete from head to head. The trophies are also excellent. The losers trophy, which I still have yet to receive because I did lose last season,
Oh no.
um, is a little cherub, and it's a tap handle on it. And when you pull it, it will, do the cherub thing. Uh, so we have, I cannot confirm this, but we have taken shots out of the losers trophy before. It's just such a fun atmosphere and such camaraderie in that league with guys who've been playing in there for 20 years.
That's
And
awesome.
it was really fun that I got a chance to be invited to that league when somebody stepped away. So
That's awesome. Do you guys do a live draft?
we have before. The past couple years, it just hasn't lined up with everybody's work schedules and things like that. But we have in the past, and it's so great to see people from, like Dallas, from the Carolinas, from Vegas, from Colorado, things like that, all come together and just, talking smack in person just has a different level to it.
Yeah.
So it's always so much more fun. But we, hang out in the pool, smoke some cream cheese, just hang out, have some wine, whatever. And it's just a great experience.
Sounds good. Now, when it comes to playing the game, are there certain settings or formats that you like the most?
So this is why that league is one of my favorites because we do IDP. We have 4 IDP spots, and that is what got me hooked on that. I think that the defensive players in fantasy football don't get enough respect or recognition that they should. And I've had Quincy Williams all season long when he's putting up 18 to 20 points a game. Like, let's go. So IDP is definitely something that I love.
Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people, most vast majority of people that play the game do not play IDP. And you can just it's just so obvious how your awareness of the game and defensive players just allows you to be a better sports fan, a better football fan, because you just know more about what's happening out there. So when some people might, you mention a name, a defensive player, they might even not know who that is. So I respect those that appreciate IDP, because it's definitely another level of fantasy, and it makes the experience a little more challenging for sure.
Let's just get crazy with it. That is what I am all about. Let's just get crazy. Let's get wild. Let's dig deep.
That's perfect, perfect. So for you, for attending law school and all that to creating fantasy content, talk to me about your journey from that to this, and where it's come from.
Well, I will say going to law school teaches you how to research. So the research and analytical aspect built in, done. If you think about my journey in law school, I never thought that I was going to be doing something other than law. My mom told me since I was, yay high, you should be a lawyer because you can argue with a wall and win that argument. And so I went there, did well. Um, but unfortunately, around the time that I graduated was still during the recession. And 2 law schools in Arkansas, there was just a complete influx of lawyers and couldn't get hired. Everyone had hiring moratoriums. Um, so I started out and kind of did my own firm. I would go to the courthouse and file documents, and people would be like, who's the attorney of record on this? And I was like, it's me. And they're like, "Are you sure? Are you not the runner?" And I go, "No, it's me." Um, Similarly, I would have people walk into my office and say, "Is the lawyer here?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." They would not say a word, turn around and walk out. Um, so it was just kind of a really difficult field to break into,
Sure.
especially in the timing that I was in. So I bounced around, bartended, service industry, because obviously people talking sports bars, it's where I function. And obviously my loud mouth on Twitter got me noticed somehow. I still don't even know. And it was Ryan Hallam from Fighting Chance and Fantasy Alarm, and he was like, "Can you write?" And I was like, "Can I write?" Yes, I can. So I wrote him like 20 or 30,000 words on all of the matchups, and he goes, "Oh, you can write." And then it just kind of veered off from there.
That's amazing, and you can see how, like, all those skills, when it comes to writing and researching and like you said, analytics. I mean, you can see how it all fits with the fantasy space and stuff you're doing. That's awesome. That's a really cool kind of shift of career path, and I can see how it has provided some rewards now. So you said fighting chance. You started with fighting chance. Talk to me about that experience, and then diving into fantasy alarm.
Yeah, so it was so cool and surreal because again, my husband's always known like she knows football. But thinking that anybody else knew that I knew football was a foreign concept to me. And so when Ryan Hallam found me, reached out, I was like, is this a joke? Are you trolling me? Like, what's happening? And then he asked me to write that article for the matchup previews, wrote them up. And then he's like, okay, I really want you to write for Fighting Chance. It's not a paid gig, but we have pretty much launched a ton of people who get started on Fighting Chance. And I was just like gung ho for the opportunity. I was like, I get to talk more football. Let's go. I don't even care. And so started writing a couple articles, did some mock draft previews, some waiver wire stuff. I did a DFS value play for a long time because obviously I'm a Goodwill shopper and I love finding the values. And just kind of went from there. Then I started doing customer service at Fantasy Alarm, not doing any kind of content. And Howard Bender actually reached out to me, bless him, and said, I really love your voice. I love how you talk about football, and I would love for you to write for us. I'm still pinching myself to this day that actually happened because I'm just somebody who yells at the TV. But it's a really cool experience and a really cool ride.
How about lightning round fantasy football? How's that experience been?
Oh my gosh. So when I got asked to do lightning round, it was actually called Calm Before the Storm. It was our Sunday start sit show. I was at a festival in Illinois. I was in the middle of a field. They texted me and I was like, hey, can I talk to you in like 30, 45 minutes? Like we're on the rail for an Humphrey show, which is just so weird. And they're like, yeah, sure. So they called me and I was backing up from the rail, like standing in the field. And they're like, we want you to be a part of the show. I literally collapsed in that field, started crying, which at a festival, nobody thinks anything about because everybody's like, vibing on different things. Everybody's
Sure.
feeling different emotions. But all my friends who were there were like, what's going on? What's going on? Because they know that like I'm not a big crier in public. And I was like, I think that my dream is coming true. I think my
Oh,
dream is coming true. And I just kept crying. And then, it evolved to lightning round and with Coop and Kevin. And oh my gosh, just it's crazy.
it is crazy. And you talk about some of those guys. I think about the fantasy football community. How much has this community meant to you over the last few years, and specifically when it comes to like the fantasy football expo? How much has that experience meant to you?
Man, I cannot tell you how much that experience has meant to me. I struggle with pretty much debilitating anxiety. I do not like to be outside my house. I do not like to be perceived. And so I worry about what people think about me on social media for the expo and the community, for people to come up to me and just randomly introduce themselves to me and be like, I follow your content. I follow you on Twitter. I really like you and appreciate you, is just something that is so validating that I never thought that I would see, especially as a completely awkward on the spectrum person. And it really does give me a ton more confidence than just, sitting behind a keyboard, things like that. Interacting with this community is completely incredible, and I cannot understate it enough.
And it's so cool, going back each year, just the more, I'm sure in your case, just more comfortable, familiar with people. It's more like a family reunion these days, huh?
Totally. I will say last year was my first year there. I was super nervous, pretty much hung on to my husband for dear life. And I was like, I can't go anywhere without you. This year I was there by myself and just hung out and saw everybody. And, you know, it's just, this is a family. Like, I, c- I know that we say that it's a community, but it really is a community. Everybody loves everybody else. It's so fun to see everybody in their element and not just behind a microphone and a camera. And then we get awesome performances from people and see,
For
like
sure.
Proton, like Jake Trowbridge,
Yeah.
just completely incredible. And I will say that Scott Fish really did freak me out because he was like, Sellers, who's my husband, told me to make sure that you're fine all weekend long. And then finally at the last day, he's like, no, I'm just kidding. He never said that. And I was like, you had me so worried. Like, was that a test to be on my best behavior? What are you doing?
Oh, that's
Just
funny.
Scott Fish is a gem.
That is great. What's your favorite event at the expo? Like, obviously, it's turned into multi-day event now. Like, people are showing up on Thursdays. But what's your favorite point that you look forward to most during that expo weekend?
Man, that's hard to pinpoint down. I think this year it was the poker tournament because I was so hungover at the poker tournament. Okay. I had 2 connecting flights. I was drinking on the plane, got in like at 7 o'clock at night, and was just not feeling the best on Friday. Okay. Showed up. George Reed was at my poker table. Um, did not remember that I had had dinner with him the night before. And so I introduced myself and he's like, "Yeah, we met last night. We had dinner." And I was like, "Oh my God, who else here did I have dinner with last night that I don't remember?" Um, but it was just, everybody was so fun. I ended up taking quite a few of those people out in poker. Made it to like the final 3 or 4 tables. And yeah, then you and I had some high noons and
I
it
was
was
gonna
great.
say you introduced me to the high noon, so I won't forget that event. That's fun. Talk to me about the women of fantasy football. Obviously, that's a big deal at the expo. What has that experience meant to you?
This is so near and dear to my heart because as somebody who, not only, it's not even trying to break into the industry, but somebody who is told from, a young age, you don't play football. What do you know about football? And I'm like, I don't have to play it to know it. Just shedding a spotlight on all the fantastic analysts in this industry that kind of get overlooked. Um, I'm about to start crying because it just means so much to me. And it's giving them a platform and showing people, hey, we belong here. We have a space, we have a voice, and we we need to be taken seriously is just such a wonderful thing. And I can't believe that I'm a part of it. Again, I'm still pinching myself. I can't believe that somebody found me on Twitter, that somebody actually reads my content because I'm just content with shouting into the void all the time pretty much. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It is, and it's fun to witness from the outside, just kind of seeing how connections are made, and especially with that, again, with the women of fantasy football movement. It's powerful and it's fun to be around. It's fun to witness. It's fun to see the panel discussions. Uh, when it comes to like other connections that you made at the expo, are there any ones that stand out to you? Certain people you like didn't know of and met, and now have some type of relationship.
Oh my gosh, there are too many to mention. But oh man. Yeah, there were a lot. There was man, yeah, I just can't even mention all of them. It was too many. It's too much.
I think that summarizes the event though. It's what it is. It's what it's like. It's mind blowing how many people you meet, and it's crazy how like a 3-4 day event or whatever can happen, and then you can you can leave it and think, gosh, I wish I had more. I wish I had more time with this person or that person or this person. And so, is there anybody on your bucket list that you look forward to spending more time with next time?
Um yeah, there's a lot of people. Um I will say though, going back to the last question, Jeff Mans, when I introduced myself to him and he said, "Yeah, I've heard of you." I crumbled. And I was like, "What do you mean you've heard of me? What do you mean?" And I almost lost it. Um, so that was great. Um,
That's good.
yeah, it's just, honestly, there are too many people to spend your time with and allocate, you've got all these different events happening and you can't talk to nearly as many people as you want to. Honestly, I would say that it's everybody. I want to spend more time with everybody that I've met.
That's a great answer. And I think, again, like with, Bob Lung has put together an amazing event. I can't imagine, where this community would be without, having that opportunity for everybody to meet. It's advanced so much over the last few years when it comes to the connections and interactions out there in the Twitterverse or Xverse. And so you got to give a shout out to Bob Lung. And if anybody does not know what we're talking about, it's the Fantasy Football Expo. Takes place in Canton, Ohio every summer. Highly recommended for analysts, experts in the industry, as well as anybody that's just a fan of fantasy football content, an enthusiast, someone who loves the game. There's something for everybody there. So highly recommend it. Can't recommend it highly enough.
I just love that I accidentally stalked Des Bryant. I was looking for the bathroom and it was on the wall and I missed it. And I was like, oh, there are going to be signs hanging down from the ceiling. Walked all the way to the back, which was definitely not where the bathroom was, and then ran into Des. So apologies, Des, if you watch this. I was not stalking you on purpose. I was looking for the bathroom.
I love it. I love it. It's great. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll just throw out a question. You just let me know first things that come to mind. What do you love most about the game of fantasy football and the experience?
It is the competition. Beating somebody, again, I am a highly, highly competitive person. If I can beat you, I will do it. No questions asked. If, I lose to you, then I will set my entire mind to beating you the next go around. The competition aspect.
Double or nothing, right?
Yes, double or nothing.
That's good.
Lakers over Pacers.
What's been the most difficult challenge thus far for you in the industry?
It really is the imposter syndrome. I still deal with that a lot, again, with the anxiety and just putting things out there. I want to get everything right 100% of the time. And every time I have something that's wrong, I go back and I'm like, what could I have done differently? What I gave these people bad advice, blah, 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 blah. But I have to realize that people aren't going to get everything right 100% of the time. If we did, we would all be millionaires. So just dealing with that imposter syndrome and just making sure that I get everything right,
As best you can, right?
Yeah, it's
what do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
it's the people. Again, we talked about the expo. People who I didn't know in person coming up to me and being like, I know you from Twitter. I follow your content. I really, just like what you're putting out. And it's such a great community. Not only the people who consume fantasy content, but people who put it out there. Like it's again, it sounds pretty cliche, but it is a community and we're all fun. We all have each other's backs. We all share a common interest and it's just so fun to hang out and like this is our space.
For sure. And it's people from so many different places and perspectives and life experiences and like so many different people coming together. It's amazing.
It totally is.
No, well, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm still flabbergasted by the fact that we have so much diversity in this community.
Yeah. I know you could always use more and we'll see more continue to grow when it comes to diversity, but it's pretty special for sure. What have you learned most about yourself over the last 5 years?
Well, that I do have anxiety and I need to be a little less critical of myself. I think it's a journey. We're always working to improve. But you can't beat yourself down for every loss or missed call that you have. You can only work to improve yourself. And we're doing the best we can. We're humans.
That's good. Can you name a person in the fantasy industry that you'd love to watch a football game with just to understand their perspective and get a sense of how they're watching the game?
This is going to be really funny. And I'm not homering this at all, but it would be Howard Bender at a Jets game. Um, I really want to see him at a Jets game because obviously the Aaron Rodgers thing did not work out. Jets fans are kind of very interesting to me because they have subjected themselves to such misery throughout so many seasons, and yet they're still loyal fans. I would really just like to see him in his native New York at MetLife and just analyze the entire thing.
That's good. How about a double header? You go watch that game with the Jets, and then you go to a Fish concert that night.
You know what? I've actually done that before. So I went to not a football game, but it was a metal festival in Chicago at their soccer stadium. The Saturday night lineup just wasn't vibing. And I was like, what else is going on in Chicago? Oh, Fish was playing. So we went to go see Fish. We left a metal festival to go see Fish.
Oh, that's good. That's funny. What's your biggest loss as a sports fan?
It's got to be the Des Bryant catch, no catch.
Really?
The catch, no catch.
Yeah.
I vividly remember our friends were all at the bar watching that game early on. My friend went to the bathroom because he's like, there's no way this is going to be overturned. There's no way. And he comes
Oh,
back and I'm like sobbing. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, they're not catch. Like it's traumatizing.
he left to the bathroom while the review was taking place?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
crazy.
Well, I think they went to commercial, so it wasn't
Okay.
like
Yeah. Oh, that's
wasn't like
funny.
anything on TV. But yeah, when he came back, I was just sobbing, and yeah, I will go to my grave saying that was a catch.
Well, at least at the expo, you could tell Des that, right?
No, I did.
Did you?
I opened with that.
Of
I
course.
said on my deathbed, my final words will be Des caught it because that's not awkward at all. I
I love it. What's your favorite all-time moment as a sports fan?
Oh man, this is really hard. I think though that it is the Dodgers winning the World Series a couple years ago. Because the last time they won it was in '89. I was a little baby. Do not remember that. Or '88, whatever. So seeing my dad be a fan of the Dodgers for so long, seeing Kershaw finally get that World Series win, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed like this. I looked like a little gargoyle sitting on the edge of the bed
Oh,
watching it at the end of the night. And when Urias threw that final strike, that will always stick with me.
baseball will do that to you. A lot of people, downplay baseball. Obviously, it's not as exciting as football. It's definitely kind of waned when it comes to national spotlight, but playoff baseball, especially if you have everything on the line, like there's not a lot of things more special than that. So I can see that for sure. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of fantasy sports?
Oh, so I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. This is part of the ADD as well. I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I'm an old lady. I like to cross stitch and have some really impressive cross stitch pieces. If anybody cares or knows what that is. But also just music and my piano and my guitar and hiking. I also like to hike, which is weird because I'm not athletic at all.
Well, it's nice to see nature. Easy hikes are pretty enjoyable.
It's
As long as
pretty
you're not like killing yourself, right?
well, that's the thing. Again, that competitive nature in myself, I'm like, let's go on the toughest hikes. Like we went I think the Helen Hunt Falls in Colorado Springs, it goes up like 3,000 feet in a third of a mile. I was running up the stairs like an idiot. Because I'm like, I can get to the top faster than you can. Yeah, I'm not the smartest.
That's great. When it comes to the singing, I know obviously. What's your background with that? Like, did that go anywhere, or was that just something that you just were naturally talented in, and it's just something you've enjoyed?
Well, so it's my great grandmother held me one time. When she held me, she said she's going to sing like a little chickadee. She passed away 2 weeks after I was born. And so the nickname Chickadee just stuck with me as a little songbird. I didn't even know that as a kid. I was always singing, making up songs. I would do a pretty voice, which is like just a ton of vibrato. Because again, I'm dramatic and need attention. And singing was just something that I always loved. I always felt brought me happiness. Again, growing up on that farm, my grandparents' farm was like down the field from us. My grandma has said that she heard me singing across the holler because I would sing outside.
Yeah.
It's just something that I love, and um, I would love to pursue it, but honestly, I'm too self-conscious about it. I just do it for fun. Let's keep everything cool and let's just keep enjoying music like as a fan and not a producer.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to keep things as hobbies. What are your favorite go-to karaoke songs?
So obviously Adele. We heard that at the expo.
Indeed.
I do like Alicia Keys' Falling. I like Heart Alone because that high note is just tickles my brain, you know. I love Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, but honestly, I'm not that great at singing Taylor Swift, weirdly enough. There's just something about her tone and register that I can't get, but I have also been known to do a Tool song every now and
Ooh,
then.
nice, nice. Any specific songs or collaborations already in the works for 2024?
Nothing yet, that I know about, but I'm sure that it's gonna happen.
It's a highlight of the event for sure. So much fun. The karaoke is just it's just great. It's just fun to see everybody just relaxed and having a good time. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. What's the last TV show that you binged?
That I binged, I think I'm currently on Shameless right now. Just going back and forth. I have to have the TV on when I go to sleep. So Shameless has just been my go-to to like get through it. For some reason, I never got to it when it initially came out. And I'm just, you know, dabbling in.
Sounds good. Do you have an all-time favorite show?
I do. It is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The
Okay.
bartenders, the narcissism, I mean, the anxiety, everything about that show is just perfection.
You get it. That's cool. Do you have a favorite all-time favorite movie?
I you know, I don't know, but I think it would have to be Titanic based on
Okay.
the times that I've watched it. I can quote and recite basically every line from Titanic because I've watched it over and over and over. When I was a kid, we had the double VHS tapes.
Ooh.
And the ending of the first one was, "I believe you may get your headlines, Mr. Ismay," and then it blacks out. And I just I've watched it that many times that I I know the timing of it.
That's awesome. How about favorite band or musician?
So, I have a lot. I think the one that I've seen the most is Umphreys McGee. I've seen them I lost count, between festivals, between Red Rocks runs, everything like that. The jam band situation is just so good, and they are so talented in different genres. You never know what you're gonna get from an Umphrey show, and it's just perfect.
I love it. What are you most grateful for at this time in your life?
I think that I'm most grateful for that, and this is gonna sound cliche, but for everybody in the community, in the fantasy football community, for building, each other up, for being there for each other, just supporting each other in light of certain Twitter accounts that shall not be named, that try to tear people down. Let's just be there for each other and build a community, even though we're 3,000 miles away from each other. It's just really great.
That's wonderful. I love it. Obviously, we got a 2023 season flying along. The football season goes so fast. What are your impressions so far? Like, who are some of the players that are the most disappointing to you? Surprisingly disappointed to you?
Surprisingly, I mean, Brees Hall, unfortunately, coming back from that ACL, no Aaron Rodgers, no real offensive line to speak of. It's pretty disappointing. Man, Jerry Judy has also been very, very disappointing. It's been the Cortland Sutton show. Um, man, there are a ton. Um, I think DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, honestly, that entire Seattle pass catching core has been disappointing. I don't know. It's crazy. The
No,
parity this season, though, has been insane. I never would have thought that the Texans were going to be where the Texans are right now.
yeah, parity and injuries. Like definitely a quirky season, but I guess every season has its quirks. We are obviously entering, that time where you got to start thinking about fantasy playoffs. If we can form a kind of a roster, like a one quarterback, a couple running backs, a couple receivers, a tight end that you would really love to have on your teams, moving into the playoffs, who would you say starts at quarterback?
Oh, let's see if I can remember. I think it's going to be Josh Allen. They're up against the wire because they have lost some games that they should have won in. I think that they're going to be pulling out all the stops. He's still going to be rushing because even though Leonard Fournette got signed, we still haven't seen him. So I think Josh Allen still has that rushing upside. And 40 points last week. Love it.
How about a couple of running backs?
So it's gonna be Bijan Robinson for the first one. Arthur Smith finally seems to have finally figured out, like, oh, if we use our best player, like we can win the game. Oh my
Amazing.
God, how does it work? And going down the stretch, they do have a really favorable schedule. The next one is going to be Isaiah Pacheco, kind of guy who's under the radar, but again, the Chiefs' schedule is really favorable. And Mahomes and Kelsey really don't have that same connection that they had in prior seasons. So I think they utilize the running game quite a bit more.
I get such a kick out of watching him run, like the effort that he makes. That's just not like he puts so much into moving like a foot. It's the funniest thing.
It's you've
Oh my
angry
gosh.
runs, the king of angry runs.
Oh, I've never seen anything like it. I've seen some players that have that same kind of style, but he takes it to another level. How about a couple wide receivers?
So I'm going pretty chalky here. Tyreek Hill, obviously. The Dolphins' schedule is pretty tough. Going through the last part of the season, again, they're competing with the Bills for that division. So I don't think that they take their foot off the gas. And then it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. The sun god. The sun god is just the best guy out there. The most underrated guy out there, I think, with his targets, with his snap share, just with everything they're doing. Um, I take back everything that I said about him 2 years ago.
He's truly special. With I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan, so we got JSN here. I want JSN to be him. You know what I mean? Like he's Amon-Ra St. Brown is truly special, and he surprised me too for sure.
I think that you might get a JSN breakout tonight against Jordan Lewis. And this
We'll
is
see.
from me coming as a Cowboys fan. The slot coverage has not been it. So it might be a JSN breakout game tonight.
And we might have a deficit. So passing the ball is probably likely gonna happen. So this episode's gonna air tomorrow. So whatever happens, we'll find out, right?
Double or nothing.
No. How about a tight end that you'd really love to have on your fantasy playoff roster?
So I'm gonna go Sam Laporta with my tight end. Again, I feel kind of weird and icky stacking so many Lions, but Laporta has just been so good. He keeps getting all the targets. His playoff schedule is not difficult for the tight end position, but it is difficult for the entire team. So I think that they'll still throw it to him. And this kid, like, let's break the rookie tight end narrative. Come on,
I
this kid
yeah,
is great.
he is great. I think Andrew Cooper's having a fun season with all this tight end action. It's definitely changing the narrative for sure.
He and Dalton Kincaid have just completely shattered Andrew Cooper's world.
I love it. Obviously, you've had a journey into this fantasy football industry. It's been fun to listen to. Can you name a few people that that have just had a massive impact on you along the way?
Yeah, and this again, it's going to sound like scripted and contrived, but when I was just playing fantasy, my favorite show to listen to was the Fantasy Alarm Show on Sirius XM. So I would listen to Howard, I would listen to Jim, and that's why I keep pinching myself that I'm actually in this space and get to work with them and call them my friends and colleagues. Also Lisa Ann and Adam Ronas, when I would get off work from the bar scene, they would be on when I would drive home. Justin Finsterman, Alarm After Hours, always listen to him. We did some late night drives to that festival that I mentioned before, and I listened to Finsterman like driving at 4 a.m. in the morning. Like it's so fun, and I'm sure I'm leaving people out, and I just can't be grateful enough for everybody who, has made an impact and given me an opportunity to put my voice out in the space.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so surreal. I can't imagine what you must feel on a daily basis about it. I love it. What
It,
advice do you have for people that are wanting to get more involved in the fantasy space and in the industry?
for one, just write, 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 write. Do not be afraid to put your thoughts on paper. It doesn't matter if it ever comes out, if anybody looks at it, just get your thoughts out on paper. Two, research. Make sure that you do the work, because the research and your process is what is going to dictate the rest of your career. And three, don't be like me. Don't second guess yourself. Don't question yourself. If you have good takes and you have a good process, going back to 1 and 2, then there's no need to question yourself. So stop doing it. And I need to take that advice for myself. But
I love it. Now, one question for you would be, who's going to win the NFC? Who's going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year? Like, do you think the Cowboys can get past the Niners and Eagles? Because those three are obviously looking like the best teams right now.
it honestly worries me so much because Dallas doesn't have that run game. Everybody clamored for Tony Pollard. Oh, he's much better than Zeke, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, he was better than Zeke on the outside, but between the tackles, he's not doing so great, is he? So it really worries me about Dallas's run game and being taken out and one dimensional. It seems like the 49ers are the most complete team, which I hate to say, but I think that it's going to be them.
When they're firing on all cylinders, yeah, it's definitely a sight to see. It's a painful sight to see as a Seahawks fan or a Cowboys fan, particularly. But yeah, they're tough. But obviously, you got to get past the Eagles, and they're stout as well. How about on the AFC? Who do you think is going to represent the Super Bowl?
It's probably going to be the Chiefs, right? Like, has to be the Chiefs. They've dropped a couple of easy games, but Andy Reid in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Once they get Travis Kelce going, I think it's going to be pretty unstoppable. Might be in the script for a Chiefs Eagles rematch, but I'm still going with Chiefs and 49ers.
We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Well, Britt, is there anything that we haven't covered before we close things out here on this episode?
No, I don't think so. Um,
I think
I
we've
don't
done
know.
good.
Yeah, I feel good about it.
I feel great. So tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find my work over at fantasyalarm.com. I do the ESPN Chattanooga radio show on Tuesdays at noon Eastern, Lightning Round at 1 Eastern on Tuesdays, Britt's Fantasy Blitz at 2 Eastern on Mondays and Fridays. And I think that we're going to be talking about bringing her story back in the off season with Women of Fantasy Football. So no details there yet, but just stay tuned.
Something to certainly look forward to. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I've been a big fan. When you burst onto the scene in the fantasy community, I've just always loved what you did. I love you. I love your character. I love your passion. It's infectious. So keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to seeing what comes next for you.
You're going to make me cry. Stop it. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.